Isha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Om. Thou art our loving Mother. Thou art our compassionate Father. Thou art our true friend and constant companion. Thou art our only wealth, and that thou art our only wisdom. Thou art all in all. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. I'm going to speak to you this morning on Sri Ramakrishna and the harmony of religions. None of us today can properly maintain that we live within the boundaries of one religion or one culture or one nation. Thanks to the progress of modern science, time, space, and geographical limitations have become completely revolutionized. And this has forced us, in a way, to become intensely aware of the cultural habits of other people. And it has opened our eyes to the fact that there are other religions, there are other faiths, that there are other ways to approach the same Godhead. Though, unfortunately, there are some who still believe that theirs is the only religion. That is, at least it is their own religion that is the only true religion. And also, there are some amongst nations where nationalism is very strong. In this connection, let me quote to you one of your presidents. Patriotism is not enough. And they believe that their culture, their way of living, must be accepted by all the world. And if this continues, that will end in self-destruction for everybody. But again, it is heartening to find that there are some who strongly feel, and there have been attempts, sincere attempts, to have a sympathetic understanding of other cultures, of other religions and other faiths. I remember years ago, they used to study in the colleges and universities comparative religion. And the only aim of that study was to prove the superiority of Christianity over other faiths, over other religions. But today, things have changed. This also we see very plainly. Strange as it seemed to me that most of the books that I had written years back, today they have become textbooks in the colleges and universities of this country. Now, from a beginningless time, I may say, that India has recognized the ideal of harmony of religions and of universality. But before we come to the standpoint on which this harmony and this universality is based, I must explain certain facts testified by time and history. There are 6 major religions in the world: Hinduism or Vedanta, and Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Mohammedanism, and Zoroastrianism. These are the 6 great major religions of the world. Of all these again, so far, for centuries, Christianity and Mohammedanism have been the militant religions in the world. Now suppose, and many of them are coming to that understanding today, that it is not by Christianizing or Hinduizing the whole world that the world can be saved. But supposing we all become Christians all over the world, will that solve the problem? Just by becoming a Christian, or even by becoming a Hindu or a Vedantist, or becoming a Mohammedan, will it solve the problems? Will these religions, any of them, become really spiritual? Will everyone follow the common principles of all religions, that is, to love the Lord and to love your neighbor? Will they live that? Will they devote themselves to that? Will they devote themselves to realizing that ultimate truth? Let me quote to you to show you how they are coming to an understanding gradually. The atmosphere has changed. Let me quote to you in this connection one Dr. Holmer, who is a professor of theology at Yale Divinity School. He points out, lay people everywhere have a hunger for sophistication and knowledge, and it is easy to give it to them. Knowledge about religion has increased. A college sophomore can point out inaccuracies in St. Augustine's History of the Jews, in St. Augustine's History of the Jews. He said, but has the language of faith itself improved over the years? Though my task is to read 100 books a year on religion to keep ahead of students, the theologian said, I find the human race has not improved one whit in learning the language of faith. So, some of them again is gradually coming to understand the true principle of religion. And I shall point that out later. Of course, it is true that every religion wanted to make that religion universal. They always have this ideal of universality. There is no doubt about that. We Hindus also want universality. But in what sense? In this connection, I shall quote to you one of the great apostles of Sri Ramakrishna. He speaks of this ideal of universality. He says, if there is to be a universal religion, it must be one which will have no location in place or time, which will be infinite, like the God it will preach, whose sun will shine upon the followers of Krishna and of Christ, on saints and sinners alike, who will not be Brahminical or Buddhist, Christian or Mohammedan, but the sum total of all these, and still have infinite space for development, which in its Catholicity will embrace in its infinite arms and find a place for every human being, from the lowest groveling savage, not far removed from the brute, to the highest man, towering by the virtues of his head and heart, and almost above humanity, making society stand in awe of him and doubt his human nature. It will be a religion which will have no place for which will recognize divinity in every man and woman, and whose only scope, whose only force will be centered in realizing the pure, true, divine nature which is potentially existing in every human being. And I'll add in this connection that Sri Ramakrishna in this present age was an embodiment of that universality, as we shall see presently. Now, please do not misunderstand me. Sri Ramakrishna or his followers do not expect that everybody will take the name and personality of Sri Ramakrishna. He never wanted any name for himself. He couldn't say I even. He said here, And as Swami Vivekananda in his salutation to Sri Ramakrishna says, he was the embodiment of all religions. In this connection again, I am reminded of Holy Mother, whom I had the blessed fortune to meet. At that time, we young boys boycotted the English goods. Nationalism was rampant. He wanted to kick out the British from India, naturally. And Holy Mother asked one of the boys, she wanted some cloth from the Manchester. And then this young boy said, but mother, we have boycotted English goods. I can't go and buy anything like that. And you know, at that period we used to take out the foreign cloths, English cloths, and make a bonfire of them. We even went that far. Boys will be boys. And then Holy Mother said, it's all right for you boys to boycott, but I cannot boycott. The English people also are my children. You see, that was what Sri Ramakrishna stood for. And Holy Mother showed by her life example. And in all the disciples, most of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna that I have met, I could not say they were either Hindus or Christians or Buddhists or Mohammedans or what they were. Only I knew one thing, that they were men of God. From a common sense standpoint, if we consider, we shall find that all religions have a tremendous life power. All these religions are still living, and they are giving solace and consolation to many. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, an apostle, one of the great apostles of Sri Ramakrishna, he said, it has been proved to the world that holiness, purity, and chastity are not exclusive possessions of any church in the world, and that every system has produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if anybody dreams of the exclusive survival of his own religion and the destruction of others, I pity him from the bottom of my heart and point out to him that upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of their resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. This was predicted 75 years ago in this Apostle Vivekananda's first sermon that he delivered in Chicago Parliament of Religions. And today, you can see how the effects are coming. As I said, India has always stood for this ideal of universality. Sri Krishna, many centuries back, pointed out, he said, I am the thread that runs through all these pearls. The many pearls are but many religions, and God is the one thread that unites them. Now, before we consider the idea or concept upon which this harmony of religions and this ideal of universality can be realized and must be realized, let me also point out where lies differences. Then we shall be able to see where unity is possible. Now let us consider the religions of the world. Each religion consists of three parts. Philosophy or theology, which presents a scope and sets forth basic principles. Mythology, that is philosophy made concrete by legends of and legends from the lives of saints and gods and goddesses. Then ritualism or symbology. Let us consider each of these. Now first, can you imagine that there can be only one philosophy, one theology in the world? Just consider every religion, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Mohammedanism, how many theologies and how many philosophies, how many opinions are there, how many sects they have been divided into, each of these religions. And it's a good thing, because these theologies or philosophies are opinions, not always based upon knowledge. There's a difference between opinion and knowledge. And opinions must differ. If we all agree in thinking the same kind of thought, then could I speak to you? We shall be sitting here like Egyptian mummies looking at one another's face. It's a good thing that opinions differ. And motion is possible when there is clash. Without that difference, there will be annihilation of religion. Now again, let us consider mythology. Of course, here again we come to this idea. Every religion claims that his mythology is history and your mythology is myth. I would say every religion, the Orthodox section. Take for instance, what's his name? Jonah. Jonah was swallowed by a whale or a big fish. And he was in the stomach of this fish for 3 days. And then the whale spitted him out. And then Jonah carried out his mission. This is history. Now I give you another illustration from Hindu myth. Shukadev, who is a very well-known saint, and who is the narrator of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the wisdom of God, which I translated partly. I did not translate all the impossible myths. He was supposed to be in the womb of his mother for 16 years. And then he came out as a young man. This is history to the Hindus. So, can there be any common mythology? Perhaps there can be one common mythology that I know of, that is Noah's Ark. And you know they are building Noah's Ark now. In many of the churches appear like Noah's Ark. And perhaps we should have one in Southern California. Now let us take symbology or ritualism. Now, you know, Christian missionaries have preached everywhere, before the Hindus and before Christians in this country and everywhere in the world, that how the Hindus worship a phallic symbol. But the Hindus have no idea that they are worshipping a phallic symbol. They worship the impersonal, the universal Brahman without any figure. Brahman or Shiva and Shakti united together, who is the creator, preserver, and in whom the universe becomes dissolved. In their consciousness, in their mind, there is no such idea of phallic symbol. Now again, you take that most beautiful ritualism of Christianity, this sacred sacrament. Now you know, eating bread and wine, symbolizing the flesh of Jesus and his blood. Well, to an outsider, how does it look? Cannibalism. Can we have the same kind of symbology? Can we unite? I remember when Pope went to India, he wanted all of the people of India to come and join in his communism. His sacrament. The word communism came into. Is there any common ground for the religions of the world where we can meet? Take, for instance, Holy Personality. Now here again we find that Christians, for instance, consider Christ is the only Son of God. And so the whole world, universe can be united in Christ. Now again there are Hindus, the Vaishnavas, and that has come into this country, I find in Southern California. They believe and they preach that unless you worship Krishna, there is no salvation. Now, what shall we see? Let Krishna and Christ fight together and see who wins. And yet this very same Krishna taught in the Bhagavad Gita this truth. You see, I'm pointing out how the religions become degenerated gradually. When goodness grows weak, when evil increases, I make myself a body. In every age I come back to deliver the holy, to destroy the sin of the sinner, and to establish righteousness. So it is same God, same reality that comes in different dresses, in different names, to suit the different temperament of the different ages. Swami Vivekananda one time said that you have, take for instance Christ, Krishna, Buddha and Ramakrishna in one room together. They'll come out embracing and laughing with one another. And you take a Christian minister and a Hindu priest and a Mohammedan mullah and a Buddhist priest and have them all together in one room, there will be bloodshed. And then you can quote the words of Jesus or Krishna or Ramakrishna and we'll find the claim. Each one of them is claiming. If we do not understand the real meaning, if we go by superficial understanding. For instance, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth and life. Come unto me all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Now again, let me quote to you from Sri Krishna. Give me your whole heart, love and adore me, worship me always, bow to me only, and you shall find me. Lay down all duties, in me your refuge. Fear no longer, for I will save you from sin and bondage. Almost the same words, identical words. And in this present age, Sri Ramakrishna said, I am the sanctuary. If a man gathers his whole mind and fixes on me, then indeed he achieves everything. Now again, what is the attitude of us? What is our attitude? In the words of an apostle, that apostle Vivekananda, I will say, the eternal Vedantic religion opens to mankind an infinite number of doors for ingress to the inner shrine of divinity and places before humanity an almost inexhaustible array of ideals. Thus, there being in each of them a manifestation, in each of them a manifestation of the Eternal One. With the kindest solicitude, the Vedanta points out to aspiring men and women the numerous roads hewn out of the solid rock of realities of human life by the glorious sons or human manifestations of God in the past or in the present, and stand with outstretched arms to welcome all, to welcome even those that are yet to be, and to that home of truth and that ocean of bliss wherein the human soul, liberated from the net of ignorance, may transport itself with perfect freedom and with eternal joy. Religion is the ultimate concern of human life. What is that ultimate concern? Search for the ultimate reality and experiencing that or realizing that in our very lives. But again, in order that we can understand this, we must have discrimination. Discrimination of what? Between that which is eternal and that which is non-eternal. Everything that we sense or experience in this world, today is, tomorrow is not. But behind all this appearance, there is one eternal reality. Call that Christ or Brahman or God or Atman. Names don't make any difference. And in Him, we are all one. God, as it were, is the center of all religions. And each of us is moving towards Him along one of the radii. And all will meet, and in that one center, and all differences will cease. Thus, religion means realization or experience of God. And if we go to the source of any religion, we shall find that that is the truth taught by every great teacher, every great mystic of this world. Christ or Krishna or Buddha or Ramakrishna, they did not say, just accept me. But ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. There is something unique in the life of Sri Ramakrishna in this sense, that he demonstrated this truth. He simply didn't believe in the ideal of universality and harmony, but he demonstrated wherein lies the harmony by his life example. He was very pragmatic, very practical and pragmatic. He must experiment himself to find out if the scriptures are true. For instance, in the Vedas is pointed out, prehistoric Vedas. Truth is one, sages call that by various names. Sri Krishna pointed out the same ideal of harmony. Christ also said, in my Father's house are many mansions. Now again, Sri Ramakrishna would want to demonstrate that truth. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna himself, I have practiced Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and in Hinduism again, the ways of different sects. I have found that it is the same God towards whom all are directing their steps, though along different lanes. There is a saying, all roads lead to Rome. But Rome must be your objective. So the ideal and goal must be fixed in our own consciousness, in our own minds, and that is to search, that is to seek for the reality, the ultimate reality. In Him alone, in the infinite alone is happiness. There is no joy in the finite. And we are all seeking happiness. In Him alone is freedom. And to The knowledge of that one reality is knowledge, and everything else is ignorance. And beautifully described in the Upanishads as the eternal amongst the non-eternals of life, the highest abiding joy in the midst of the fleeting pleasures of life. So, wherein lies this harmony of all religions, or this ideal of universality? Not in philosophy or theology, not in mythology or in ritualism or symbology, but the search for God and realizing Him. And, as I said, I made this remark that there will be a death to religion if there was only one path, one way to reach that. There must be different paths, different ways. We are standing at different levels, and everyone cannot follow the same path. In this connection again, I wish to quote a Methodist educator and minister, Dr. Vance D. Rogers. You see, I want to point out how things are changing. He says, like science, technology, education, and everything else, religion today is involved in a profound revolution, and no man can foresee the nature of the church of tomorrow. Then the minister quoted a noted space scientist as asserting recently that two immense fields of knowledge will determine man's future course: science and religion. Each is attuned to humanity's most powerful impulses, he said. Science will be more and more concerned with creation and all it has wrought, said Dr. Rogers. Religion will continue to study the Creator. Science will work in the world without, religion with the world within man. Not up in the sky anymore. Then he says, the day is just around the corner, he predicted, when once again we are going to recognize the universality of God and all the pathways that lead to God, and where we stand shoulder to shoulder with believers of other faiths. He's quoting almost the words of Sri Ramakrishna. Perhaps he doesn't know anything about Sri Ramakrishna. And yet, these ideas, these thoughts are working in this whole atmosphere of this world today. Nobody can resist this. In this connection again, I'll tell you something that one apostle of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Sharadananda, pointed out. He said, what is generally accomplished in the thought world, that becomes manifest in the world of perception later. It takes time. Sri Ramakrishna, by his life example, brought this ideal of realizing God as the purpose and goal of human life. And also, he demonstrated in the thought world by his own life example how so many religions are so many paths to reach the same goal. And this, what he experienced and what remained in the thought world, will become concrete facts in the world of perception. No, not that. As I already said, that people will have to accept the personality of Ramakrishna, but the principle for which he stood. And what is that? That is once more to realize God and experience Him. You know, today many of the churches emphasize upon loving thy neighbor and doing good to mankind. But does that work? They cannot live together in a family peacefully. They cannot love one another, 5 people. And why can't they? Because they do not love the Lord. So unless you learn to love the Lord, unless that becomes your ideal, it's not possible to love. And when there comes that love for the Lord within your heart, love will overflow for all mankind. Because we learn to see that one God, one Brahman, one self in every being. If I hurt you, I hurt myself. I hurt God. If I hate you, I hate God. I hate myself. And that is the understanding that we have to come to. And so in order that we can come to that understanding, we have to completely devote ourselves to realizing, to experiencing God, which does not mean that you give up everything. No. But in every action, also learn to see the presence of Brahman, presence of God. Always keep that ideal. Love your wife, love your husband, love your children, love your neighbor, knowing that it is the one God that is dwelling in every being. Then is it that love will really come to you. I will conclude by quoting from the Upanishads one passage. Brahman may be realized while yet living in the ephemeral body. To fail to realize him is to live in ignorance, and therefore subject to birth and death. The knowers of Brahman are immortal. Others, knowing him not, continue in the bonds of grief. Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Abir Abir Maidhi Rudrajatte Dakshinam Mukham Tenamang Pahi Nityam. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from death to immortality. Lead us from darkness to light. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace,